You've experienced it, I've experienced it, we've all run into this issue before. We enter a game, and even though we play against players who we feel like we're supposed to beat easily, we end up struggling or just outright lose the match. What is going on, ProGuides family? It is your host, Sergeant Frost, and today we are talking about why you sometimes lose to worse opponents in game. Let's not waste any more time and hop right into the video. Let's clarify quickly that an opponent being worse than you can mean very different things. For example, a player could be lower ranked than you. They could even bottom frag on the enemy team. You might even mentally outplay the enemy but still get punished. Being better than another player in a game is subjective, so don't get the notion that we're just trying to bash low elo players beating higher elos or anything like that. But it's often quite interesting and frustrating when an opponent that you know you're supposedly better than, or someone that you've put into a bad situation, somehow comes up huge and just wins over and over. This problem isn't exclusive to Valorant either. It occurs in all competitive video games of all genres too. Some pros like to say Plat and Diamond players are built different. So what is it that makes this phenomenon occur so seemingly often? The secret is that a lot of it is related to how you approach playing against them. The first thing we have to cover is a topic that applies to almost all players. Lack of confidence is one of the biggest mental blocks that plague players of all ranks and levels of experience. If you don't feel confident playing, then you won't play at your 100%. And if you can't play at your 100%, then you might not be able to beat someone else's 100%. Something that I see often is that a lot of players at the first sign of starting off slow in a game immediately get a defeatist attitude and start playing scared, only leading to weak confidence and being more prone to mistakes. Every player is different. Not having confidence can come in many different ways, and it can manifest itself in game. For some, lack of confidence could lead to shaky aim in game, while in another person, it could cause them to mentally lapse and cause their brain to turn off in key situations in game. Or it could cause a player to be extra frustrated or critical about themselves and their teammates. I know for me personally, if I start off a game 0-5 and we lose 4 rounds straight, I'm already going to be considering that I suck or that the enemies are using RNG to get lucky. It's a horrible habit to have, but I still fall into it sometimes. If you want to win consistently, you have to play confident and play with your best efforts. And since we're just days into the new act, playing at your best is more important than ever to start your journey on a high note. So if you want some personalized help with either pushing your abilities to the limit, or if you want some insight from better players on how they approach the game, come visit our website ProGuides.com, where our Radiant and Immortal level coaches are there specifically to help you become the very best version of yourself in game. So if you're giving the climb an earnest effort this act, come check us out. The next thing we have to talk about is underestimating your opponents. Now, I know some of you may already be thinking, didn't we just talk about lack of confidence? How can you underestimate someone then? While it may seem like underestimating and confidence is closely related, there's actually a subtle difference that affects the outcome greatly. That is, underestimation is more like arrogance. I think people have a misguided idea that confidence just means feeling like you'll always win, but it's not quite the whole story. If you make stupid plays because you have good vibes or think that you're better, you run the risk of getting punished and tilting. That's sort of like how the 9-3 curse works. You enter the next half feeling like the win is locked in, and then people start making stupid plays to try to close out the game. Before you know it, you're down 9-10 and your team's vibes are completely dead. Arrogance ruins games faster than I can say subscribe to ProGuides. And you definitely don't want to make the mistake of underestimating opponents due to being a higher rank or being in a 3v1 or cornering your opponent. Before we move on, we have to get to our question of the day. Today's question is, what tilts you most in game? Personally, I cannot stand being shot through smokes. I know sometimes when people die through smokes it feels like the enemy is walling, but sometimes you just have to understand that other people truly just get lucky in this game. And even though sometimes when it does happen, I really want to rage quit and stop playing the game for 6 months, you have to understand that RNG happens to everyone and you just have to deal with it. So what tilts you guys the most in game? Let us know what your answers are in the comment section down below. Now let's get right back into the video. If you have played competitively in video games, FPS games specifically, you have probably heard of RNG, and more than likely have been a victim of it on many occasions. RNG can come in many forms in Valorant, getting running one-tapped, getting timinged in a clutch, getting hit by a random utility, etc. So why are we mentioning RNG as a reason for why you lose to worse opponents? Well, learning how to deal with RNG in its many forms on a mental level is what can help you forge a rock-solid mindset while playing in game. A lot of times when higher skilled players die to lower level players, they immediately get in their head and say it was lucky or that RNG was in that person's favor. This leads to a mindset of arrogance, and a lot of players try to make up for the unlucky situation by doing something risky, which, if punished, leads to even more tilt. You need to be mature enough to admit to yourself, everyone deals with RNG, so I shouldn't even be getting upset over it. The likelihood is your teammates and the enemy are all dealing with RNG every game. If you can deal with RNG and not let randomness in games get to your head, you'll naturally start to see the odds shift in your favor over time. The main concept we want you to take away from this topic is how not to let what goes on in game, good or bad, get into your psyche while playing. A lot of players, myself included, can sometimes psych ourselves out and feel the effects of tilt from something that happened earlier in the game. Being upset or tilted at something that didn't go your way 8 rounds ago is not going to help you win more rounds in the future. In my personal experience, sometimes a good way to counteract the feeling of tilt from something that happened earlier in the game, you need to find ways to mentally reset or feel better. Whether it's stand up and walk around, or take a deep breath. As a player, you should not be toxic or beating yourself up mentally about making a mistake, or getting killed in some unlucky way. Self-sabotaging yourself isn't going to help you in the moment, and only detracts from your ability to play with a level head. At the end of the day, learn how to take the bad with the good while playing this game, and treat each other around as another opportunity to win. This next topic we're going to talk about deals with the external factor of how you play and how it can lead to you playing worse. And that is properly warming up before hopping into a match. Trust me, we've all experienced this once while playing any video game. Sometimes it's later in the day and you don't want to spend 15 minutes warming up in aim labs or the range, or playing DMs. I feel this lack of motivation to practice all the time, but I also realize that I definitely have a lot more fun when I win and do well in game. So if I can give myself the best chance to accomplish that, then it's probably in my best interest to do so. So why do I feel this urge to not warm up? Well, a lot of players have this belief that they will do better if they jump into a game cold, and this belief is simply just not true. It's scientifically proven that warming up before sports is the best for performance. Pros most likely will have a laundry list of different things they do in practice before jumping into a match that's worth money or tournament qualification. Be honest with yourself. You would never find players like Tens or CNET turning on their PC 5 minutes before a match. So in reality, you shouldn't either. When you do this, you are only setting yourself up to underperform in game and hurt your chances of winning. Let's quickly shift the topic a little bit to another factor that is connected to warming up, and definitely leads to playing worse in general, which is having cold hands while playing video games. Having cold hands is a feeling that many gamers have felt before playing video games at some point in their life, especially if you are a player like me that lives in a colder environment. Going into a match when your fingers are stiff and feel frozen is a surefire way to nerf yourself before you play a ranked game. So, how do you conquer this feeling of being stiff while playing? Well, as an avid video game player myself from a region like Chicago, I definitely have a few methods I've used since I was a kid to fix this issue. If you are a player that experiences cold hands while playing, especially during the winter months, you should first warm your hands up with warm water to get the blood flowing again. Once you get that blood flowing through your arms and wrists, then you should warm up extensively to make sure your muscle memory is on point and that your wrists, hands, and fingers feel loose and responsive. After all, it's called warming up for a reason, and it's not just a performance thing. Some great warm-up tools for mouse and hand coordination, and to get your hand feeling loose and responsive that don't involve Valorant are Aim Labs, Kovacs, and the game Osu. These are all aim and mouse trainers, and they have a lot of courses that are very effective at not only warming you up, but also building up muscle memory and hand-eye coordination to sharpen your micro skills when playing video games. Remember, game knowledge and game sense are great to have while you are improving as a player, but not warming up and not taking steps to improve your aim will always hold you back from reaching your potential. Last but certainly not least, the final reason why you lose to players worse than you is because you rely too heavily on your teammates. Okay, let's start this section off by being completely honest with ourselves. It's nice that sometimes the ranked algorithm RNG works out in your favor and you have 4 good teammates, but remember, it's called solo queue for a reason. You as a player willingly queued into a match and are just as responsible for your in-game performance as your teammates are. If your teammates all went positive but you still lost the game and you went negative, that loss is very much on you as it is your teammates. As you start to climb up the ladder in ranked, you can't rely on your teammates to carry you. If you aren't playing to the best of your abilities, then it could affect your teammates' performances, just like how a bad teammate can cause you to get put in bad situations. From a gameplay standpoint, a common mistake a lot of players make is that if they want to play controllers or passive agents, they then feel like they don't have to worry about getting kills. This belief is not only false, but it's a bad mindset to have as well. And every good controller and sentinel main knows that their play needs to be on point when they get pressed by higher skilled enemies. In fewer words, the first step to becoming an independent and competent player is to not worry about your teammates and how they perform, and to start focusing on yourself and what you can be doing at all times to help your team win the round. If you can't take care of yourself, then you can't take care of others. Try to find a good balance of not being too reliant on teammates or over-relying on your agent's abilities. Once you reach that happy medium as a player, you will find yourself having way more impact on your games and carrying much more consistently. Valorant is always a balancing act of so many different factors, and it's never a good idea to add things like tilt, RNG, and cold hands into the mix. Our hope is that this video spreads a bit of awareness on different ways you can end up playing worse, and help you remove these issues from your gameplay. If you enjoyed this video or want to see more of this, make sure to drop us a like and subscribe to keep up to date with our daily uploads. Also, don't forget to check out our website for the very best on-demand coaching. This has been your host, Sergeant Frost, and I'll see you all in the next one.